So are you local?
I am. What about you? Okay. Good afternoon. Welcome to Congressional Black Caucus Authors Pavilion podcasting session. I am Eric Guthrie here with Jennifer Embry. We are both authors of financial technology books and especially emerging technologies. So I'm crypto and blockchain, she's stocks. And we're going to just kick it off with each other on our respective books. My book is Blockchain or Die, and her book is Cash Flow Stocks. I'm really looking forward as an investor both in blockchain and stocks to see what you have to say. So introduce yourself and then we'll go from there.
Well, my name is Jennifer Embry. I'm the founder and CEO of The Enrichment. And The Enrichment is a co working space that I opened up in South Florida that ended up becoming a business incubator. Part of that was us helping these new businesses or businesses that operated for years actually get finance, get structured for funding, get their foundations down. And from that, it spun off to helping them with their finances. Part of that included helping them transition their portfolios and things like that. We had a lot of vets, and a lot of those veterans were older and would get paid out of pension. So I wanted to help them diversify their portfolio so it generated a cash flow every week, sometimes every month. And then it turned into me helping their kids and their kids' kids. And we developed a program from it. And now there's lots of organizations that use it.
So why did you write Cash Flow Stocks? Tell me about the reason why you started to write it in the first place.
I started to write cash flow stocks because I got tired of doing Zooms.
Okay.
So it became, there was a little demand for it. And to make it equitable and available for everyone, I just developed a program.
Okay.
And I wasn't being very creative with it. This is what I do with my stocks. I cash flow them. And I was able to retire by 36 from cash flowing, starting off with like $8,000. And once I started to actually actively invest and know what I was doing, I was able to cash flow daily, monthly, weekly. It's some of it is passive and some of it, involves some trading. So because it's trading, because it's cash flowing, I named it cash flow stocks.
Got it. So as an investor, when you talk about cash flow stocks, you mean stocks that provide a dividend on a regular basis, or is there another reason why you call it cash flow stocks?
Because the stocks are cash flowing.
Okay.
They're sitting, they're growing. If we're active, if we're investing, I've developed strategies where you can arrange your portfolio to get paid out weekly or monthly. And this is just passive cash flow.
Right.
But then we have programs where we do options, and that generates, a significant cash flow that you can live off of.
Right.
And the key element from our investing, because we invest, you invest, I invest. The difference was the cash flowing part. Like, we can all own assets. That's great.
Right.
But some assets create liabilities. Are our assets cash flowing? My main goal is always to make my money continually move. So if it's just sitting, I like rivers. I don't really like it being in a lake. So, and rivers flow. So,
right.
The goal was to make sure that whatever we have continues to grow and continue to move. And instead of becoming a financial planner or anything like that, I thought it was very important to empower people to know how to do it themselves.
Okay. So now let's talk about the title, because my title, Blockchain or Die, has been very impactful for my book. It's actually my second book. My first book was Diversify or Die, about diversity and inclusion. So the Or Die series, actually, when I would come to CBC back in 2016 when I wrote the first book, and people will walk around and be like, "Oh my God, diversify or die. What does that mean?" So it really pulled them in. So when I was trying to decide how to do a title for my second book, I said, you know what? I'm going to do Blockchain or Die, which also has been very helpful in terms of marketing and selling the book. So tell me about cash flow stocks.
I was going to ask you.
Why Blockchain or Die?
Yes.
It was really based on that whole story, but there's more to it, right? Because Diversify or Die basically sends a message. If your company is not engaging diversity and inclusion in your clientele, in your products, in how you market, in your leadership, there's plenty of examples where companies didn't do it and they died. They didn't succeed. So that's why diversify was so powerful, because that title really encapsulates the real challenge here for companies: either they diversify or they die. So now blockchain or die, it's a bit more of a futuristic, way of looking at it, because cryptocurrencies and blockchain technology are the future. So it's a little more artistic license with blockchain and die, because it's not happening right now. It's an emerging technology, and we're talking about emerging technologies and emerging investments, right? So that is really where things are going in the future. But if you don't get engaged now, you're losing a lot of profit potential, investment potential, as well as business opportunities. So the entire book is based around that premise, around understanding it, knowing it, learning it, using it, investing in it, and being part of it. And that's why I'm writing my second book, which is a sequel to Blockchain Die, because it was Amazon #1 bestseller 7 times.
Oh, that's excellent.
And won 3 book awards. So I was like, hey,
congratulations.
Thank you. So I did it very well. And I kept getting asked, well, what's the next book? Well, 5 years later, it's coming out in December of 2024.
Okay. A question for you. What made you get into the blockchain?
Well, I got into it because here's the story. I was in an Uber back in 2016, and he was talking about the fact that the driver was a gamer and he used Bitcoin to buy, lives and swords and stuff in the gaming world. Now, I wasn't a gamer. So, but I was still talking with the guy. I talked to Uber and Lyft drivers because they have some great stories to tell. So then he says, oh, yeah, I bought it for a few pennies. Then it went up to $20 per coin. And he was like, I sold it because it was a lot of money. And then he said, well, then after that, it went to $50 per coin. So it was even a lot more money. So because I shouldn't have sold it because, it went so high in price. Fast forward to the end of the year. And at that point in time, Bitcoin had gone up to almost $3,000 per coin. And I learned of that at a retirement luncheon that I was at with a friend of mine that was retiring.
So
and now I was like,
coming up in conversation.
hey, oh, absolutely.
And you were like,
it was a cultural phenomenon that was just happening. So I said, you know what? I need to learn about this. Every generation has a paradigm shift in technology and business and finance. The last one was the internet back in the early 2000s. I didn't get in on that one, and I regretted it. And I wasn't going to make the same mistake twice.
Correct.
So for 3 days straight, I read everything I could about Bitcoin, about Ethereum, about cryptocurrencies. Most importantly, I read the Bitcoin and Ethereum white papers. I consider them kind of the Bibles of the cryptocurrency space. After the 3 days where I barely slept, I barely ate, I barely did anything else, I said, I'm in.
Yes.
This is the future.
So what was your first step? Did you, at that time, it was probably Coinbase. Was that the only platform you can acquire it in 2016, or did you move on? Did you have another wallet? How did you start?
So I started by downloading the Bitcoin wallet itself.
Okay.
Right, which was easier back then because there wasn't as many transactions in the Bitcoin protocol. Now, like millions, to download that protocol now. I mean, you can still do it. It's still open source, but it's just a lot of memory on your computer. And then Coinbase was there because in the US, it was not as easy to do it as going overseas. I was actually preparing a trip to go to, I think it was Germany, and to download some wallets there and then, use the euro to buy cryptocurrencies. But then I found Coinbase and I found a few other ways to do it. So that's how I started. Back then, Coinbase had one crypto.
Yes.
Bitcoin. That was it. And I remember when Ethereum was number 2, it came up. It wasn't, oh my God, we got 2, and then along came Litecoin.
Yes.
So those were the early days of crypto. I just found it to be a really exciting time. And I'm so glad that I got it when I did, because now it's part of my investment and professional portfolio.
Yes. So after did you purchase a Bitcoin, or were you able to be the unicorn with at least one Bitcoin?
I did purchase one, but here's the real funny thing about it. I purchased a lot more Ethereum. I was more interested in Ethereum than Bitcoin.
As a utility.
Exactly. It had a business model, business applications, and I just thought that was going to be a much more powerful crypto than Bitcoin was.
And tell us why it being a utility coin is more powerful than
Well,
just
because there's
another one.
more uses for it. I mean, Bitcoin has one use, decentralized finance. And even that is restricted because the Bitcoin blockchain, until recently when it got upgraded with the Taproot upgrade, it
Mhm.
didn't really have much you could really do. And a transaction took 10 minutes. Now, along came side chains and LL2, which is kind of technical talk for, making it more advanced.
Mhm.
But Ethereum, it was you're creating smart contracts, decentralized applications. It was creating all this whole new business structure that was so
Mhm.
exciting.
Mhm.
And Ethereum was like the number 20th cryptocurrency that was
Yes.
rolled out,
Mhm.
but now it's consistently number two. And for a
Absolutely.
small period of time, it was actually number one. And then it swapped out with Bitcoin again and stayed number two. But it has that kind of staying power. And there are hundreds of tokens
Mhm.
that are on the Ethereum blockchain. So the model works.
Absolutely. So, if someone was beginning, would you recommend, what would be your top three recommendations for cryptocurrencies for someone to start? Do you have a particular wallet you think is more user friendly? Or is there a top three? Not that you're a financial advisor,
Right.
but based on your knowledge and your portfolio, what has worked well for you and what do you think are the top three?
I can tell you exactly what I did, and none of them involve a wallet or investing. The first thing is learn, learn, learn.
Hmm.
Because one thing I say is never invest in anything you do not understand.
I totally agree.
I'm gonna say I beg you say the same exact thing too to your clients, right?
Absolutely.
So
Rule number one.
if there's a stock in an industry and you don't know anything about the industry, learn about the industry first, and then after you get comfortable, then you invest. The second thing is paper trade.
Hmm.
I tell everyone, if you read my book, I have a whole paper trading section, even with a paper trading
What
chart.
platform would you recommend to paper trade Bitcoin or cryptocurrency on?
Well, you can do it two ways, right? One, you can just do it with paper. You can just, go on to coinmarketcap.com. You can create. I actually have a graph
Mm-hmm.
in my book where you can just copy that and just write it in. You can just,
Mm-hmm.
do that and just keep copying it for all the
Mm-hmm.
days or weeks you want to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there have been some really good advances in making it more commonly used for the average viewer, because back then people weren't downloading
Mm-hmm.
Binance or Coin Market Cap or Coinbase. Now they use
Mm-hmm.
Robinhood,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
You can even use Cash App for Bitcoin, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there's the ways you could do it more commonly. But the third thing I say is after you invest, after you research and you paper trade, then
Let's elaborate and tell people what paper trading is.
okay.
Because we're dealing with digital currency and we're saying paper trade. Can you elaborate on what paper trading actually is?
Well, I'm sure you say the same thing to your clients with the stock market. So the concept is the same, just in a different type of industry. So
Mm-hmm.
paper trading is when you pick a stock at a certain price
Mm-hmm.
on a certain day, and
Mm-hmm.
you say, I'm going to invest, let's say, $100, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you write that all down, or you
Mm-hmm.
put it in a computer program,
Uh-huh.
or you put it on an online system,
Yes.
and then you just follow it every day. How
Mm-hmm.
much should it go up? How much should it go down? What were the events that caused it to go up or go down? And
Mm-hmm.
you just follow it and you follow it and you follow it. And
Mm-hmm.
then what happens is you get comfortable with the movement
Mm-hmm.
of the crypto or the stock.
So it's being called paper trade because you're not using your real paper or your real money. You're using the actual events that's happening and you're following the events that's happening to kind of do research, right?
Correct. Yes,
On
exactly.
how this stock moves or work and whether or not it's something that you want to invest in.
Absolutely.
So paper trading, there's platforms that offer free trading, which means they will give you fake kind of
Mhm,
monopoly money,
mhm,
right?
yeah. Yep.
To trade with so that you can see how what the movement of particular currencies are,
Mhm,
right?
absolutely.
So do you recommend any platforms?
I do not, because I
Okay.
haven't used any of them.
Understood. He did it on paper.
I did it
So
on paper,
he
right?
literally paper
I
traded.
literally paper traded. And the reason why I don't do it is because I didn't want to share my information, my email or anything with anyone
Understood.
that I didn't have to, right?
Yes.
So I don't need to share my email or username, make a username or password with something that I can just do with paper,
Yes, and
right?
I like it because I really advocate, I'm glad you touched on it, that people paper trade first. Anything you fear or unsure of, even if once you learn it, you still have that analysis paralysis.
Yep.
Like you've learned so much about it and you know everything about it, but you've yet to take action. So again, I think paper trading is a really good way to go but crypto has a very low entry, for a lot of people. So even if you have a couple dollars, that's something you can utilize to paper trade with
There's
as
even ways you
well.
can get crypto for
The
free.
same thing with stocks. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And there's ways you can get crypto for free as well.
absolutely. Yeah.
When I started my program, one of the main platforms I would use would be Robinhood, because at that time there was commissions. So if I told my friend to download Robinhood, they would get a free stock.
Yep.
A couple of my friends got Microsoft. One of my colleagues got Tesla. I thought it was pretty cool. So
That sounds like it did very
and
well.
that's why I recommended, that platform.
Right.
But what platforms would offer a free crypto?
So there's a number of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's one called Publish OX, which is
Mm-hmm.
a social media site that you get
Mm-hmm.
free crypto for writing articles, liking articles. You can tip the
Mm-hmm.
author, you can tip yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Another one is called Lolly, LLI.
Mm-hmm.
And you can use that site as a site where you buy things like,
Mm-hmm.
you would buy from anywhere else, from CVS, I use it for travel.
Mm-hmm.
Priceline is on there, Marriott's on there, Hilton is on there. So when I've got a car,
Mm-hmm.
when I rent a car from Priceline, I
Mm-hmm.
rent through that site, and I get percentage back in crypto in my wallet. The same thing with hotels. So whenever I travel, the first place I go is Lolly, and I see what's available. And as the market has increased over the past couple of years, I've seen that wallet grow,
Excellent.
and I haven't done anything but do what I would usually do and spend
Mm-hmm.
money on things I would usually spend money on.
Okay.
Another one is the Brave browser, which is a decentralized browser on the blockchain protocol.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, there's a lot in terms of not having selling your information, or it prevents scams and ads and stuff like that. But
So there's
when
some due diligence to be done, and that's why your recommendations are appreciated,
right,
because there should definitely be some due diligence.
when you use the Brave browser, though, you get paid to browse.
That's pretty
You
awesome.
don't get paid to browse on Safari or on Google or on Firefox,
Mm-hmm.
but you get paid on Brave.
Wow, that's a nice plug right there. Thank you for that, Eric.
You're
So
welcome.
with Blockchain or Die, what are some elements of the book that speak on perhaps historical events, on why if why if not now, what the consequences would be? What's an example of that? Like if someone weren't to start investing in crypto now, what has been a historical example of not adapting? Can we name any major companies or organizations that?
In the blockchain space, not yet, because it's still
Mm-hmm.
too early,
Mm-hmm.
right? But what I can say is this: when people learn about the meteoric rise in the prices, they say, "Oh, I wish I gotten in. I should have gotten in," and then they didn't. And there's a whole lot of wealth that's being built, which could be generational wealth, which I'm sure we deal with all the time in your business, right? That generational wealth can be built in our community. That's not, you
Absolutely.
had the opportunity to do it and you didn't.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
it's not really or die per se, not yet,
I think
but
it
it's
is for
coming up.
some businesses.
It could
It
be.
could be to the
It
point where
could be.
some businesses are.
Yeah.
There's times where I used to have an uncle who did not like plastic. He didn't like credit cards or anything like that, and he wanted to do everything with cash. There's places we go now where there's you cannot use cash, and it's just look emerging technology. So I look at Bitcoin that way as cash. Like if I don't have, if there's a cash only farmers market, or if
Mhm.
there's a card only farmers market, I think diversification is important, which is, although I have a lot of stocks, I've also done a lot of research and invested a lot in cryptocurrency as
Okay.
well.
That's
Yeah.
wonderful. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good to
So
hear.
the decentralized funds it's a whole nother world, and it's something that's foreign to us until we understand it. And once we understand it, we understand the empowerment of it. So I look forward to reading the book, actually. Yeah.
And I yours. But the question I have for you is, I give you my top three. What are the top three things that you tell your clients, but they should do when they invest in stocks?
So the top three, it's good. I'm glad you asked that, because I literally have three things that I tell my friends, my group, organizations that purchase the program. There's three things you need to do with all types of investing. The first thing is you need to know what you're investing in.
That's number one. Yep.
And when I say know what you're investing in, know it to where you know what it is and
Yep.
how it is a cash moving vehicle that will make you money, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Because if you invest, oh, I'm going to buy a duplex. How is that duplex going to make you money? How is
Mm-hmm.
that going to cash flow for you? My
Mm-hmm.
favorite word, cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's number one. Know what you're investing in. Don't listen to other people. You need to know what you're doing. Know what you're investing in.
Right.
The second thing you need to understand is know what you commit to put in and have an expectation of what you're going to get out. Some things are exponential, but at least have an expectation where you understand your rate of return, right?
Right.
What that
Right.
percentage is. So that's number two.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, know what you're investing in. Number two, know how much money you put in and how much money you expect to get out.
Yep.
And number three, know when you're going to get that money.
Have
Have
an entry and exit
have an
strategy.
entry and
I preach the same thing.
exit strategy. You have to see the beginning before you begin
Right.
to know where it's going. It's
Right.
almost like if you walk in a room and you cut on a light switch, you know that light is going to pop on most of the time because you know this is the act. If I do this action, this is this.
Right.
That's how stocks have become to me. Like it's almost like flicking a light switch. It's on and it's off. I know when I leave the room, I'm turning it off and it's going to go off.
Right.
But you have to really understand what you're investing in order to have that type of empowerment over it. So those are my top three things. Know what you're doing, know how much money you're putting in when you're getting it out, and then have that exit strategy.
And here's the power of this conversation because we're saying the same thing essentially to our clientele and to
Mhm.
people that are reading our books, even though we're in totally, well, I won't say totally different, but we're in different industries,
Mhm.
stocks and cryptos,
Mhm.
right? But the principles are the same. And it's the type of advice that we give that does a few things. One, it prepares them for what they're coming into.
Mhm.
And two, it keeps them from making more mistakes,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely. And I learned a while ago that the stock market is another language. The
It
stock
is.
market has a
Yeah.
whole nother language. And because of that, my first group who I trained were retired veterans who were getting paid out their pension. And so I had to learn to create content and create curriculums that have digestible information with language that we can understand. So technical terms are used, but then they're broken down simplistically. They're not nicknamed, they're matter of fact. Like this is what we're doing with this.
Mhm.
Instead of saying, oh, there's a beta or iron condor, this or that. We're not doing the Greeks or anything like that. We're sticking to let's look at where it goes. Let's look at this. I advocate for paper trading, but I love for people to get to a level of comfort prior to jumping in. I
Right.
also try and facilitate cash flow that has low risk with high returns. And that sounds
Oh,
in the
what
stock
kind of cash
market
flow is that?
low risk but cash return. Well, an example of that would be covered calls.
Okay.
An example of that would be covered calls.
Well, people not understand what that means. I do, but can you explain what a cover call is?
A covered call is an option that you have on assets you already learned
Mm-hmm.
or you already own rather.
Mm-hmm.
Because you already own it, it's low risk.
Right.
And you can write this option on there and sell it for whatever price you want to.
Right.
And again, low risk, high returns. The frequency of which you do that is exponential. And this is how I was able to retire early.
Got it.
So yeah. And it's again, there's a lots of ways to trade. There's lots of options, but for me, that is a low risk option strategy that cash flows frequently.
So two questions, and I'll answer the same questions myself. What are your ideal clients, and how can they find you?
My ideal clients are everyone. Because of my co-working space, one of my tenants was a financial advisor,
Mhm.
and he's the one who adopted it for his organization. So
Okay.
I've taught his organization and nonprofits and black chambers and etc.
Mhm.
I can be found at theenrichment.com, and that's the enrichment, like a minted coin,
MINT.
MINT,
Got it.
yes,
Mhm.
.com. And Cash Flow Stocks is a private sector under there.
Mm.
So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram at The Enrichment. On Instagram, we are at Cash Flow Stocks.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Where can we find you?
So my ideal clients are any type of company that wants to engage in a blockchain conversation, maybe do a token, maybe do a DAO, a distributed autonomous organization, maybe figure out how to do smart contracts. Those are my bigger clients. Also, if you have an NFT, a non-fungible token, I do a lot of business now in trademarking and doing intellectual property for NFTs.
Understood.
So, but I also train a lot of courses. A lot of them have been certified courses. One of them is through the DC Bar Association for attorneys.
It's awesome.
Good in 45 states. Yeah, I was one of the first attorneys to have a certified course through a DC Bar, so I'm very proud of that. You can find me on www.blockchainorDie.org. .org. You can find the book, Blockchain or Die, on Amazon.com. Also, you can find me on LinkedIn as well, Eric Lance Guthrie on LinkedIn. I'm really trying to focus on building my marketing presence for my next book. I'm trying to do a massive rollout.
And what would the title of that book be?
It's going to be another version. I'm keeping it very close to the vest.
Okay.
Because the title is so awesome that I don't want to have it get out there.
Understood.
But only myself and my editor right now know, and maybe my wife knows the. I don't know if she remembers it, but I told it to her. It's going to be a sequel to Blockchain or Die, which is supposed to come out in December 2024.
Excellent.
If it does what I hope it's going to do, because I added a whole bunch of new cool new stuff to it, it's going to hit USA Today and New York Times because I really put that much into it.
Well, awesome. Congratulations. And I look
And to
forward
you.
to it. Yes.
Absolutely.
We're rolling out a pretty comprehensive program to make sure we're inclusive of all levels of investors.
Mhm.
But in terms of emerging technology and the wealth gap in our country, I think it's very important that our people understand different avenues of cash flow
Mhm.
and different avenues of building legacy and investing. So I'm so grateful and glad I was able to sit here and have this conversation with you.
As am I. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I know we're going to have some more conversations about the entire CBC. So if you guys are watching this video, stay tuned. You may see us again.
Definitely going to see me again. Definitely. So.
Well, it was my pleasure and my honor, and to
appreciate it.
enjoy the rest of CBC.